Yeah. So have you studied that what is function, what is method?
Uh, I got one thing like in the function we can call by the function name. Okay, but method for method we have to introduce the class and object concept. So when you call a method, you have to use the object dot the method name inside a class.
Okay. I will discuss this in the today's class that what is function, what is method. It is
Okay.
very important because it will be asked by you, the interviewer, in the interview that what is function, what is method, and how to call a function, how to call a method.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Fine.
So I will discuss
So
it
one more
first.
thing, the date time function today we'll discuss, right? The date time function.
If the time is left, then we can all discuss the date time function as well. Okay, but okay, just yeah, I think so. In today's lecture, I will discuss that date time function as well.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so suppose now we are going to start with local and global variable. I think so. You both know that what is local and global variable, but just take a look at that. We will take a small example. Okay, now if I say, okay, first of all, it is recording. Yeah. Okay, now suppose there is a factory. And say this is a factory. Okay, this outlet is a factory. Now this factory has two rooms. It's like you can say room one, then room two. Okay, this is room one, and this is room two, and this is all the space the factory has. Now there are some person naming, you can say person X, then person Y, and you can say person Z. Okay. Who can work in all the space in the factory? They can work here, they can work inside the room, they can work this room. As this is, if you say, this is room one, and this is room two. Okay. So, and some persons like person here, person A, then person B, there's person C, and there's person D. So this person XYZ can work anywhere in the factory. It can be room one, it can be room two, and it can be in the factory as well. It They can work anywhere in the factory. But the person A and B cannot work outside this room. They have to work in this room only. They cannot go outside the room. And similarly for C and D person, they can only work in room 2. They cannot go to room 1, they cannot go outside from their room. Okay. Now similarly same thing is happening in the language as well. You see that this is a class. Okay. This is my class. And there are functions inside it. I say this is function 1 and this is function 2. Okay. I say, yeah, this is function 1 and this is function 2. It can be a name with any function, but there is function 1 and there is function 2. And there are variables like their person. Now there are variables X, okay, then Y, then Z. Okay. Now, and this function has two variables, as you can say. variable A, then variable B, similarly C, similarly D. Now the scope of this variable x, y, z, they can be used in any of the functions, whether it is function to one, that whether it is function two, or any other function which is inside the class. They can work in they can be used in every function which is inside the class. But variable A and variable B, they cannot be work in function 2. Similarly, variable C and variable D cannot be used in function 1. The scope of this variable A and B is inside this function only. Okay, now scope means the you can say the life of this variable is inside this function only. It cannot be used outside this function. Understand both of you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is known as global and local variable. Here, X, Y, Z are called, you can say, global variable. By global, I means it can be used in anywhere inside the class. And variable A and B, they are local variable. They can be used inside this function only. Their scope is inside this function only. Similarly, C and D are the local variable of function 2. So this is a difference between local and global variable. That global variable can be used anywhere inside the class, anywhere in the function which is inside the class. Okay, and local variable can be used where it is declared only. It can be not be used in the another function. Okay, now to understand this, let us take an example. I will make a new file, new Python file. My fourth file. Now I will say x equal to somebody say 30, anything. It can be anything. Now over here I have a variable x whose value is 30. Okay. I want to use this variable uh, that is so now first of all I will define a function here. Now how to declare a function? Def, and you can name a function like function one, anything. You can name it anything. Okay, here then I will say print. I will just say value. Okay. Now if you see that I have declared variable, and this is how I declared a function. Now if you see, suppose, yeah, here I will say print. First of all, I will just take a variable name as result equal to x multiply by x multiply by 4, and say print result. Now, how to call this function? I will just say here and name of the function. Now, suppose if I just comment this one, and if I run this, now you see function cannot be called by themselves. They have to be called.
Yes.
Okay? If I say now it says 40. This is how to call a function. Okay. Now if I say uh, a equal to uh, suppose say 60, Okay, and say result equal to a into 4. Okay. Uh, uh, I think so. There is a voice from somewhere. You can mute it if you want to ask some question. Then you can unmute it. Okay. So yes, thank you. Uh, Now if I again run this, now it will give me 16 to 4 240. So it is working fine. Okay. Now suppose here if I say now suppose here I'm calling this function. Now suppose if I want to call this result, so I can say print and say result. So it will give me an error because this result is a local variable. It is declared inside the function. And I have already told you that variable which is declared inside the function can only be used inside the function only because it is a local variable. So I cannot call b, a, or any variable which is declared inside the function only. I cannot call that variable. Okay. So this way I cannot call this. Just comment this one. Okay. Okay. Now, if say, mm, so this is local variable. That's why I cannot call it outside the function. Okay. Now, moving further, we have some date time function. I will just make a new file and say date time study. Okay. So, first of all, this datetime function is very useful. You will see when in the coming classes when we do some exercises that these functions can come handy. Okay. Now datetime function is in the Python library. From that library, we will be executing that our datetime function. Okay. Now, but I want that function to be loaded here. So datetime module. So how can I do that? In Python, we use from keyword. Okay, and say from datetime import datetime. Okay, now there are two datetime packages. We will use underscore datetime, and it has more functionalities and it is different from the normal datetime. Okay, now here I can do current date equal to datetime dot now, and I will say print current date. Now if I run this, now you see it will give me current date, time, and the seconds as well. Okay, and if I want to see the what is the type of this current date, I will say type current date. Now if I run this, now I say date time dot date time. Okay, now this function that date time now is giving me the current time. Okay, and we have also checked the type of our variable, that is datetime dot datetime. Okay, now suppose if I want to print only date, I don't want this to be printed. So what can I do? Name a formatted date, or you can name your variable as any. Say current date dot strf time, and the format you can use is percentage b, then percentage d, then percentage y. Okay. If I say print formatted date, now if I run this, now it will give me December 09/2024. You can change the place of y, d, and b. Okay, but you have to see the format, that b, d, and y. So this is a format you can get from any Google, any anything. You can get it on online. But the thing is, how to use this? Suppose now, if I say, I will say y here and b here. Now it will work or not? Tell me, it will work or not?
Yes, it will work.
It will work in your opinion.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just run this. Okay, that will run. Okay. You can change the places of your year, month, but you have to be sure that what does this give. Now, if I suppose uh, in place of small b, I do it with capital B. Now, if I run this, now it will give me whole. Okay. Now, where it will come handy? Now, if I say we will go to website yatra.com flight schedule. Now, if I click on here, now it says Feb 2025. Now, when we work on this calendar, this will come handy. Now, it is giving me small. Now, suppose if I go to, I think so, make my trip. Okay. Now, here, if I just click on date, now here it is coming full month. So, here it can come handy. This percentage bigger B. So you will see in the coming classes that how to use this date. Now, if I say
So for month, you can use B or M. Like here, we are using B, right?
B,
So most of
B,
the other language we use M, right?
yeah, but here it is B. Okay. Now, if
Okay.
I just run, go with this, okay, now you see December only. So I can extract month, year, date from a formatted date. This is my formatted date, which I have get it from current date. Okay. Now, if I say what is the type of this formatted date? So tell me what is the type of this formatted date?
Same
It
date
will,
time.
okay, just run this. If you see, this is string.
String. Okay. Mhm.
Okay, this is a very good interview question. They can give you this program that this is the current date, this date time dot now. Yeah, it is the type with the type of date time dot date time. But when I take it into a variable current date, I am extracting the values. Now, what is the type of this formatted date? So you have to say that it will be in the string format. It is not a date format. I am extracting a, you can say strf time, string f time. So you have to be very sure. If you see that strf time, it will taking a string value from the current date. Current date is a type of date time. It is taking the value from string value from the date time. So you have to be very sure that what is the type of that formatted date. Because in Python, suppose here it says current date. Now if I say current date is, and I will just say okay plus sign. Okay. Now will it run or not? Will it be give me error or not? Or it run?
It will run.
Okay, let's do this. Now you see it will give me an error. Why? Because this is a string and this is a date time.
Okay, we have
Y-
to convert it. Oh, got it.
Yes, that's why it will give me error here and say now I have concatenated, I have converted into the string, then I have added this. Now if I say, now you see current date is, so you cannot directly add different data types, or you can say cannot concatenate the different data types. Okay,
Okay.
now suppose there is a yeah, here I have a date one, like say today is so 10, say 12, then 2024. Okay, now this is a string. If you see, this is a string, but how can I extract the values from this string? Okay, I can say uh, string formatted date equal to date time dot strp time, and my variable which is date one, and here I have to give the format, that what is the format of this date. First is date, then there is month, then there is percentage y. Okay. Now if I say print string formatted date, okay. Now if I run this, now you see this simple date has been changed to my formatted date. Now if I just print the type of my formatted date, now you see it is string. It is string, but you can say now suppose if I want to extract year from it, okay, I say print year. Okay, now if I run this, now you see it will give me 2024. Similarly, I can extract a day, say string formatted date dot day, and say print day. And similarly, I can go with month as well, say string formatted date dot. Now if I want to say suppose month, it will give me month as well. Suppose I will print month. Now if I run this, now it says 12th month. 10 is the date, and 2000. Now suppose if I want, now you're asking that where we use m. Now suppose if I want that it will give me, uh, you can say month one, yeah, like string formatted date dot strf time and say percentage b, say print month one. Now it will give me December, or if I just go with capital B, then it will give me with full name. Okay, so this is how you can extract month with name, month in digit, day in digit, or you can say your year. You can get any format. There are many formats. If let's say 24 only, not 2024 only get 24, you can get. Now suppose there is a date, the date like can say 09, but you want only 9, you don't want 0, you can get that format as well. So there are different formats in which we can extract a date. Okay, now
So what
this
is the major
mhm,
difference between STRF time and STRP time?
you can
There will
say
be function.
it's a functions. You can get suppose now if I say STRF time, I will get my name, month name. I want to my month name. As I already told you, it will come handy when we do these calendars. That when we are comparing, suppose I want to give the date, and suppose I'm giving data of March 2025, like 24 March 2025. So it will come here, here, now, then here. So how can I select this? How can I compare this by March 2025? If it is March 2025, then stop clicking on this. I will not click on this. Okay. So this will come handy.
Okay,
These are all inbuilt functions. You don't have to worry about these functions, but you know how to use these functions.
okay, okay.
Okay. Now if I say dot strf time, this is a function, but here it is called as method. Why? Now if you say datetime dot now, if I just click on this, it will here. This is a function. This is a very important concept. Right now, I'm telling you that what is function, what is method. This is a function inside this class, which is underscore py datetime dot py. This is the inbuilt class. This is the inbuilt function. But when I'm using this function here, this is known as method. Okay, it is being called in another class. That's why it is known as method. Dot now is a function inside this class. If you see now, this is a function inside this class. But when I'm calling from another class, it is being called as method. So this is the main difference between function and method. That function inside the class is known as function. But that function, when it is called outside the class with the help of an object, that is known as method. Okay. I'm
But
just
where have we defined the class here?
here from datetime import datetime.
That is a class.
Yes, this is a class. If you see that this is the class, you see class datetime. You see here class datetime. That's here I'm calling. This is a inbuilt class inside Python. I'm calling, if you see, class datetime. I'm import date time.
Oh,
Okay.
importing.
Yes, this is how you import a class from another class. Now I'm again saying function and method. Function which is inside the class is inside the class is known as function, but when it is called from another class with the help of an object, then that function is known as method. Okay, let's say
This case, date time is a object. No, date time
that
from underscore.
that is a so this is known as how to call your object from another class. Here I can name it import date time. That is class dot. You can say your function name. You can call it when the call is from the another class. Suppose if I suppose this is my class which is I have made. Now if I call this function, suppose I will give you one more example. Suppose yeah here. Uh, suppose if I say def function to say sorry say this is b equal to 50, okay, and say c equal to if I scan mm, if I say result 1 equal to uh, function 1. It will not give me that thing. I will give you example because if I give you right now, you will get confused that what is the thing I am doing. The thing is that right now you have to remember that if the function, suppose this is a function, I don't know, suppose if this function is called inside this class only, inside this date time class only, then that is not a method, that is a function. But when I'm using this function outside this class, like this dot now with the help of this date time dot now, because if I just click on this control plus left click, it will take me to this, as this is a function inside this date time class. So when this function is used outside the class, this is known as method. But when it is used inside this class, inside this own class, then it is known as function.
Function.
That is not a method. The interview can ask you, can confuse you that suppose if I have five functions inside the class, so that function can be called as method. So you have to answer that if that function, the five functions are used inside the class only, then it is function only. You cannot call it as a method. But when this function, any of these function, whether it's the first function, second function, third function, any function, which is called outside the class with the help of some object, with the help of class name, then that function is known as method. Okay, as these are
The
pre-built.
only thing I got confused is here. this class, it says class date time date, whereas
Mhm.
in the other class definition, put from underscore date time
This is
import.
a what I can do. You can say it's a module. If I just here, this is a module by date
Mhm.
time. Now,
They're calling the library basically.
yes, this is library and this is a class. Date time is a
Ah,
class.
within that library, there is a class called date
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
That's what we are bringing other file.
yes.
Ah,
Okay, now if you see, if I hold, now you see it is class.
yeah.
It's date time. It's a date time dot date. Okay, now so I have written over here that function which is inside the class is known as function, but when it is called from another class with the help of an object, then that function is known as method. Okay, that this is the main difference. This is the main difference between a function and method. And you can say function can be called as method, but method cannot be called as function.
So in
Oh,
this case, current date is object, is it?
no, no, no,
Current
no.
date.
No. This is not an object. You can say this date time. This is an object. Okay. This is the thing by which now if I say when I making the object current date like suppose this is how you make an object of the class. Okay. This is how this is current date is like I will just give you. mm, Now when we declare so date time dot now, there is a space in a memory where my object is created. Date time dot now, suppose date time dot now. So this is how we created a object of that class. Okay. Now if I say this will create a object in a memory, but where that memory location is, I don't know. So here current date, if you say
Variable.
this current date is a reference to the object that this object is lying here. This current
Uh,
date is a reference. This is not an object. Many people get confused that this is a object, but no. Current date is not an object. Current date is a reference to the object. Like if I am saying that I am 50 kilometers away from Pune, and suppose I am 50 kilometers and there is a milestone that it says Pune 50 kilometer. So that milestone is not a Pune city. That is a reference to the Pune city. That Pune city is 50 kilometer away. So same way, my current date is not an object. Don't get this that current date is an object. Current date is a reference to the object that where that object is lying in the memory location. Okay, most of the people say so. It is a very basic interview question that if I say current date equal to date time dot now, so what is the object here? So you have to say this is an object. Current date is not an object. Current date is a reference to the object that object is lying in the memory location at that particular space.
and so formatted date is also a reference. Current.
Yes, these all things are going like you can say it's a thing that this is the reference that this is doing this is doing when I'm making the object this is the object here I am not making an object this is don't get confused when I'm making the object of the class date time dot now so that current date is a reference to the object don't go too deep just is for just a understanding that when I'm making the object that current date is a reference to the object
Okay.
that thing is lying there so and I can access all the things with the date time dot now. Okay? Don't get confused. It's a very simple thing. When we make the object of the class, this is how to make the object of the class. So that object is lying in the memory location like this, and current date is a reference to the object, and my current date can have anything that is inside this object. It can access all the things which have this. Okay, so this is just a part. Don't go too deep. Just a simple thing that this is a function. Here it is method, and inside the class where it is being made, inside this class, this is a function. If it is called inside this class, then it is known as function only. But when it is called outside the class, then it is called method. Okay. Say, yeah, I will make one more file, Python file, and always go with Python file. Don't go with the file, otherwise you will get an error.
This is
Okay.
PyCharm.
Now,
PyCharm.
yeah, PyCharm. This is PyCharm. Uh, if I say my third, fourth, yeah, my fifth file. Okay. Say there is a function, sum1. Now say num1 equal to 50, or you can name it as 500. Then say num2 equal to you can say 20, and say result, mm, sorry, result equal to num1 plus num2. Okay. Now suppose if I call this function, so what will it give me?
520.
So you both say that it will give me 520.
Yes.
Okay, so let's run this. It will give me
So there is
nothing.
no print statement. Yeah.
Yes. Now suppose if I want to print this, what can I do?
Print then in bracket someone.
Okay, print then someone. Okay, so let's run this. It is saying none.
Okay, then print the result.
Okay, here I will call print result.
No, first you have to call the someone, then print result.
Here where print result.
After someone.
Be in
Okay,
the function.
uh, you are saying that I have to print here. Okay, so you have to go with this print result. Okay, otherwise it will not give you anything.
Yeah, in the function only you have to print the
Yeah,
result, and then
yeah,
after that you have to call the function.
yeah. Now, now if I told you that uh, sum of num1 and num2 is, so now what it gives me?
sum of num1 and num2.
It will print, you say.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's run this.
No, we have to convert it to integer.
Where for how which part I have to convert to integer?
Result.
This one.
Yes.
This is
So
already if I
it's already number result equal to number. So these two are already in. You have to string, convert into string. str bracket result.
yes, we have to convert into a string so that they can concatenate. Otherwise, if there is no string, it will give you an error. Okay. Now I can make one more function like say def sum2. Now here I will pass the two numbers num1 then num2 and say result equal to num1 plus num2. Okay. Now again I will say print. Now when I passing the two variables, then when I am calling this, now I have to pass two variables here as well. Now say 50, then 70. Okay. Now if I run this, now you see sum one of num1, num2 is 120, 50 plus 70. So I can call the function as this like only. Okay. And there is, I can even take the input from the user as well. Now if I say one more function, def sum3, say num1 equal to input, let's say enter number 1, num2, and say same thing, enter number 2, and say result equal to num1 plus num2. Okay. And say again printing the same thing. Okay. Now it will run or not. Now suppose if I call the third one and I am commenting that, okay, now suppose if I call this one, it will take the input, but it will run or not. Now, suppose if I run this, I say this is 40 and this is 30. Now what will be the answer?
70.
Okay, just I press enter. Now you say 40, 30.
It's appended. Yeah.
It is concatenating because
Yeah.
it act as a string. So for converting this to integer, I have to do it like this. Okay, now if I run this again, now again 40, then 30. Now you see some number num2 is 70. Okay, so mm, then now when we are taking a user import, then the input that is coming from the user is always in the form of string. That's the thing to remember. Whenever we taking the import from the user, then it is always come in a string format. Okay, so it will concatenate the, you can say, both as a
The
string.
strings. Yes.
That's why we have to
Okay.
first convert into a integer to get an addition of two numbers.
Then we convert to
Yeah. Now, if I say, uh, mm, suppose now I will make one more function. Uh, def sum 4. Okay, I will just do the same thing. Now, what will I do? I will just return result. Okay. Now, if I say sum 4. Okay. Now, suppose here when I call this, now say enter number 150 and the second number is 70. So now what will it give me? Yes, tell anybody, tell me from anybody that what will it give me?
You have to convert it into result to string.
That I have converted int that, then it will, now it will working here that it is give me the result.
return will always return string or it always return
The
int.
it will return something which is it is right now it will return the addition of two numbers. So now if I enter over here, what will it print? So let's run this. If I press
Exactly.
enter, so it will give me nothing because there is no print statement. But if I just say print sum 4, now if I run this again, now again 50, 70. Now you see it will give me 120 here because it is returning me the result, but I am not printing it. That's why it is not printing anything. Okay, it is just giving the result. This is variable which is being returned. So I have to print that as well for to be that visible. Okay, so this is all things are functions. Okay, how to call the function. Now, if I'm calling this function here, now this function is known as function only because I am calling inside the this file only, or you can say this file only. But when you, it will be more clear to you when we work on classes. Okay. Now,
Okay.
say suppose here I will go do it in the new file, new Python file, and name it as my sixth file. Now suppose if I say from my fifth file, from import uh, say someone. This is how I can import another function to my file. I will say uh, someone. Now, if I run this here, now that will call that because I have called my fifth file, it will get these functions to be because these functions are being called when I called the this file. Okay. Mm, I say I can do one
Like
more
a method
thing.
now. Becomes a
Yeah,
method.
yeah. Here it is known as method. Okay. So we will discuss these things in the next class. Okay. So I think so this is more than enough because we are on the starting phase. So I don't want to get in the rush mode. So I can tell you this thing. I can tell you more things.